Hey, this is Cloud and Sec, a channel about cloud and cybersecurity. In this video, I'm talking about strategic cybersecurity news for leaders. So if you want to learn more about the format of these monthly videos that I come up with, make sure you find the reference down in the description of this video for a previous video where I explain the format of it. But for this video, let's dive right into the news for the month of April 2023. So just remember that all the news and the references of the articles that I'll be showing and sharing are available in my blog post, where you can find it also in the description of the video. But starting off with people-related news. So these are news related to personnel that might be relevant to your infrastructure from threat intelligence or a regular people information. Now, what I want to highlight first here is a major military leak that happened in the United States or against the United States government and national security agencies in the US. This has been published by major news outlets such as Reuters, for example, which you can see on screen right there. Now, what happened is the U.S. national security agencies and the Justice Department are essentially investigating the release of dozens of classified documents. This could be the greatest leak of U.S. secrets in years. The article provides information about the latest leak of U.S. secrets. So this is exactly what we're seeing on screen here. I found this Reuters page very relevant to us to understand all the context behind what really happened. So they go through what if the documents are actually real, what they encompass, and so on and so forth. So let me summarize that for you. So according to Reuters, the information leaked include classification markings of no form, meaning that they cannot or they should not have been shared with foreign intelligence agencies. So that's why this is a major leak for this information, right? Now, what kind of documents are these, right? So what kind of sensitive information was leaked? So these are documents marked secret or top secret, includes sensitive briefing slides on how the war in Ukraine stood in February and March this year. So very recent information there. On Monday, the Pentagon said that the documents appear to be similar to the daily updates provided to its senior leaders as well to its intelligence updates, though there appear to be some inaccuracies. There are a number of exceptions there that these materials mention, such as marked for Five Eyes, referring to spy services of the English-speaking nations. Now, I will leave that for your perusal later. But really, what I wanted to focus on before talking about how it leaked is what kind of the information is actually containing in these documents that leaked. So essentially, they cover a wide range of topics of the interest of the U.S. policymakers. So including information related to Ukraine, so details about Ukrainian airstrikes in the country's air defense vulnerabilities, information on a Wagner Group, descriptions of a number of outreach efforts by the Russian mercenary group, Middle East information, updates related to Iran's nuclear activities, as well as information about how the United Arab Emirates is in talks with Russia to help build a maintenance center for some weapons. China, North Korea, South America, so you can see a global report on major geopolitical topics there. So the information is very critical from a military strategic perspective. So then it's time to understand how did it leak, right? So again, just going back to this Reuters document here. According to initial reports here, that's from mid-April, April 12th. This is the articles from. Essentially, pictures of creased documents were leaked online through Discord, through the platform of Discord, right? So essentially this gaming platform or messaging platform very popular for gamers. And that was then later on found on 4chan and encrypted Telegram and Twitter as well. Now, essentially that's where it leaked. and it had been leaked for some time before it actually garnered the attention of the mass media, to be honest, right? So that's very important. In an article by Bellingcat, as you can see here, referenced on screen, about the documents, the improbable journey, because according to this report by Bellingcat, they traced the earliest reference of the leak to the now defunct Discord server, and cited 3 former users as saying that a large number of documents had been shared there. Now, on a later report in another different report by BBC, available on YouTube, as you can see here, also linked in my report, there is a reason they present the arrest of a suspect of who might have potentially leaked it, and they gave the reasons of why that actually happened by that person. So apparently, the reason for leaking is one that leads to questions about how the human profile could lead to risk reduction, from my perspective, right? But then, as reported to BBC or by BBC on this video, the reason why they leaked that information was just because this youngster working for this national security agency, and it's still unknown how they had access to that information, or it was until my reporting here, and based on the sources. So they were just trying to gain popularity amongst its gaming community. So a very concerning leak, really, because there's no really strategic reason why that would have been leaked, but the impact is massive, right? So I will leave some of these resources for your perusal later on. So that's the first news on People. The second one that I would like to touch on is an article by the Cloud Security Alliance. Essentially, it's a white paper that they released late in April with the security implications of chatgpt. Essentially, they are providing a white paper describing all the different reasons of how chatgpt can be used and why it is so concerning from a security perspective, and what are the risks associated with it. Now, in this link, you can download the resource through the link here down below. And this is a quick look at the resource itself. So I'll leave that as a reference for you as well. But what does it cover? Right, so what is ChatGPT? Explain the machine learning models, large language models utilized in it. What are limitations, terms of use, important from a security perspective to understand what happens to the data that you input into it. Understanding how the evolution of these tools are changing the security world. Very important to contextualize the use of these AI tools in our industry. And then having a very important look how malicious actors are actually using this to improve their own tool set, right? So how this tool can be used for enumeration, foothold assistance, reconnaissance, phishing, even to create polymorphic code. But they also looked at from a blue team perspective, so how defenders should be using it within their cybersecurity programs. So it's a very thorough report, 40 pages long, even more rather, 50 pages long. Good start into getting this conversation going internally in your operation and organization. Next, I'll be looking at news related to processes, or that might lead to process improvements in your organizations, right? So first one that came to mind here that became a highlight to me is this report by Microsoft. It's the 2023 State of Cloud Permissions Risk Report. So essentially, this is a report looking at risk related to cloud infrastructure entitlement management, right? So key solutions and why you should be looking at your entitlement management across multi-cloud in a different way. So what are the risks associated with multi-cloud and poor entitlement management across organizations? So picture says 1,000 words. So this here is the official, one of the official snippets from the report. which I will leave there for you as well from the official tech community post by Microsoft. But essentially, some of the highlights from this report, which again is also available on this link, and as you click on it, you have full access to it. So you can have a look at the executive summary and the executive findings. Some of the executive findings here include some comments on the permission, what you should be doing in terms of permission gap, how you should address inactive identities, and why you should be looking at super admins and reducing super admins in your environment. But some of the findings then are more than 40,000 permissions across key cloud infrastructure platforms. More than 50% of these permissions are high risk, capable of causing catastrophic damage if used improperly, and 1% of permissions granted to identities are actually used. So our role in cybersecurity is actually breach that gap and ensuring that permissions granted are actually more than 1%, a lot more than 1% are actually used, right? So we're reducing the exposure and the permission creep index as per Microsoft Enter Permissions Management creates that relation of usage. I will leave that report over to you as well. Next, very important report that came out from CISA, Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agent in the US. They released the Zero Trust Maturity Model version 2.0. So they have been working on their Zero Trust Maturity Model for a few years now, since 2020 if I'm not mistaken, and now recently they just, since 2021 the version 1. But now in this year they released version 2.0, and that is essentially available as a draft for now. But the good thing about this report is that it's available through this page. It's the traffic light protocol is clear, so that's a good indication for us to have a look at it. Now, what I found really interesting from a zero trust perspective is how clear they make the distinction between different architecture models. So, for example, if I go into Zero Trust Maturity Model, they essentially talk about the different pillars that an environment will have to redesign for zero trust. So many of them are also talked about by cybersecurity vendors such as Microsoft. Microsoft also thinks of identity, devices, networks, data as different pillars for zero trust. But the report also, before they even go into this maturity model itself, they explain these different environments or these different architectures. So as I scroll down here, I could actually see the comparison between NIST's zero trust model and also different models and how they would apply themselves in here. Of course, their full report goes extensively into what an advanced and a basic or a traditional model actually looks like. And you should definitely have a look at each one of these in there. So great reference if you're undergoing that zero trust journey in your organization, and if you're unsure how to measure your progress, your maturity into this model. The benefit of this entire maturity model is that it's agnostic in terms of whatever framework you're utilizing for zero trust. Rather, it focuses on these key functions from the maturity model. The last news on processes is something that I came across when looking at RSA Conference 2023 news. This is a keynote by Mandiant regarding the state of cybersecurity, their year in review for threats seen in 2022. So really, it's a very quick and short description of all the major threats that they have seen, trends that they have seen in how threats are being deployed, and types of attacks that attackers are actually leveraging and malicious actors are leveraging throughout their incidents investigations last year. So great video, 20 minutes. I highly recommend you have a look at it. And this picture and screen right here is a summary of their findings, right? So they did more than 1,000 intrusion investigations. They have more than 400 security practitioners working on it, more than 300 threat analysts. That's all good and well, but what's really important is all the other aspects that they cover. So, for example, some of the noteworthy mentions that they mentioned, and that was presented by their CEO, if I'm not mistaken, but they highlighted how insider threats is a very real threat that they keep seeing in incidents that they found, they keep finding, and notable groups are really important to determine possible outcomes of ongoing attacks. So understanding who they're dealing with is still very important. And this is why we can circle back from an incident management perspective. We can circle back into your framework and threat hunting framework, and what are you using from a threat informed defense perspective. Most large organizations use MITRE ATT&CK framework as their baseline. And so if you're using MITRE ATT&CK framework and your team is well trained and well versed in utilizing that in order to understand who they're dealing with, that is a great start. Because according to their report there, just knowing who you're dealing with at an ongoing attack can greatly help you understand what are possible next steps and what you can do to actually hinder these malicious actors' activities following the determination of who you're dealing with. Now, something that they also touch on there is the evolution of victim zero throughout decades. So it's a 1 minute reference of what they had seen back in the 90s, 2000s, and so on and so forth. But essentially what they see there is the big shift from spear phishing leading the charts, from yield years to now vulnerability exploits in the last few years. So that's very interesting as well. And lastly but not least, just touching on the technology aspects of news. So late in April, there was RSA Conference 2003. So the conference happened in the US, and it garnered the attention of a lot cybersecurity vendors, right, and many cybersecurity professionals as well. I found this great article by CSO online, which highlights some of the most interesting vendors to be watched in the show, but that ultimately relies back to what is noteworthy to keep your eye on. Now, the good thing about RSA this year is that they broadcasted and recorded everything on YouTube, so you can find most of the keynotes, if not all of them, on YouTube. But I will summarize here some of the most interesting news that I found and I came across from RSA. So starting off with Microsoft. So Microsoft has an entire blog post dedicated to everything they did at RSA. And the big thing for Microsoft at RSA was talking about Security Copilot, how using AI and in the Microsoft security platform will benefit, protect at machine speed. So there was a session delivered, a keynote delivered by Vasu Jakal about how to defend at machine speed, just focusing on the importance of utilizing AI as your tool for your SOC essentially. There were a lot more news as well and different remarks on at RSA by Microsoft, but this is highlight that I brought up to you. Now, also in this article right here, essentially, it is made clear here that essentially Microsoft Security Copilot is the first security product to enable defenders to move at the speed and the scale of AI. Security Copilot combines this advanced large language model with a security-specific model from Microsoft. This security-specific model in turn incorporates a growing set of security-specific skills and is informed by Microsoft's unique global threat intelligence and more than 65 trillion daily signals. Security Copilot also delivers an enterprise-grade security and privacy-compliant experience as it runs on Microsoft's Azure's hyperscale infrastructure. So if you want to learn more about everything that Microsoft talked about, refer back to this page, and also again to YouTube's and RSA's recordings of Vesu and more. Next in line, what I found interesting from my background working with Cisco was this release or this page by CRN mentioning Cisco's announcement of their own XDR platform. So essentially, Cisco revealed that they're launching a new XDR platform that, according to the report, is being built from the ground up. Now, I worked with Cisco for many years, Cisco Technologies, so I worked with Cisco LAMP, Cisco Umbrella, their firepower network protection and intrusion prevention system. So I'm actually quite interested to see or I would be interested to understand how this actually works alongside their Secure X, which back in 2020, 2019 was a big thing for them. So that'd be quite interesting. But what I read that's really interesting here is this paragraph right here. According to the report by CRN, Cisco XDR is differentiated by providing high fidelity data from across the company's various first-party security tools, such as Cisco Secure Client, formerly AnyConnect, for endpoint, according to one of the Cisco speakers here. The XDR platform, the Cisco XDR platform, integrates a significant number of major third-party security products as well. Those include EDR tools from third-party providers such as Microsoft Defender, Palo Alto Cortex XDR, and even Trend Micro Vision One. So think of these different providers into Cisco AnyConnect, right? So how does that play out? It also apparently Cisco Secure Client also integrates email security from Defender for Office, Proofpoint, and even next generation information from Firewall, from Palo Alto's, and even same information from Microsoft Sentinel. So they're utilizing their endpoint protection to connect these various different security solutions. Quite an interesting approach. I'd be interested to see what that looks like and how that actually helps security analysts do their work with this too. Quite interested. But another report that I found interesting was, or something that could garner some interest in the future, is this announcement by Eclipsium Supply Chain Security Platform. The Eclipsium Supply Chain Security Platform is designed to allow IT, security and operations teams to continuously identify and monitor software bills of materials, SBOMs, integrity and vulnerability of components and system code in each device. It generates an SBOM for each component and system code in enterprise devices in an industry standard format. So I'd be interested to see how this combines itself, or how this integrates with a larger environment. How can it pull information from other platforms even and make itself relevant in a large environment and in a dynamic environment, right? So this would be very interesting to see how it develops in the future. Next, also looking at Google Cloud and Google's announcement on Google Cloud Security AI Workbench. So essentially, Google here unveiled another AI generative tool for security. So they unveiled its Security AI Workbench offering that's powered by a new security-specific large language model known as SecPalm. The model utilizes Google Cloud's security intelligence via Google's broad visibility into threat data and Mandiant's esteemed threat intel around vulnerabilities and malware, as well as threat actors and threat indicators, according to Google Cloud themselves. So similar to what Microsoft Security Copilot is proposing as well. It bears in mind, or it will be interesting to see when they propose a demo and show this in action. That's what I'll be interested to see in the future. Now, lastly, one of the last announcements that were also made through RSA was essentially Microsoft made an announcement about a feature, an add-on, an initial add-on to the Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps called App Governance, which is still an add-on, but according to this announcement, this capability is now actually going to be included into Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. Standalone, also Microsoft E5 security and Microsoft E5 licensing, right? So that's a great news. So essentially, all of these customers that leverage all these different licensing types and products, they will get the ability to use app governance, right? So essentially, app governance is top of mind for a lot of, it should be for a lot of customers, because we're seeing a lot of reports of OAuth and malicious OAuth based applications leveraging OAuth authentication, right? So with app governance, you can hinder and reduce that risk there. So the reason why you should think of using app governance is because the rise of OAuth app-based attacks has especially become more prominent through attacks like consent phishing or OAuth app abuse. Combined with the existing challenge of navigating through SaaS sprawl, organizations need security solutions that protect them from all facets without requiring the extra tooling or personnel. So that's why you should look at app governance. But also because why Microsoft has done so, or has decided to take this approach to include this capabilities add-on into these other licensing offers, because and that's Microsoft's post, because we are seeing a continued rise in app-based attacks. We believe this is a foundational capability for customers. That's why today Microsoft is excited to announce that going forward, app governance add-on will be included in Defender for Clouds at no additional cost. And that starts from June 1st, 2023. So then that'll be valid to new and existing customers who will have to opt in the process to start using this capability. And lastly, just confirming that this means that all customers with standalone E5 security or Microsoft 365 E5 or any other license that includes Defender for Cloud Apps will have access to app governance at no additional cost. Just from June 1st, you opt in. That's great news for all of these different customers. So with this, we round up this round of news, and hopefully this has been informative. If you do like this sort of videos and this kind of information, please like and subscribe and leave your comment for me to understand how to improve this in the future. Thank you.